Out on the sun-drenched plains of Africa, where heat shimmers like glass across the endless horizon and the heartbeat of the wild echoes in every gust of wind, a moment was waiting to be written into eternity. It was not just another day beneath the vast African sky. It was a test of instinct, survival, and the unbreakable bond that threads humanity and animals together in the tapestry of creation. Here, among dust and silence, destiny carved a path where an accident, a cry of desperation, and an unexpected hero would converge to reveal nature's rawest emotions. The story begins beneath an ancient acacia tree, its branches like hands stretched wide toward heaven, shading a weathered stone well built long ago by the tireless hands of rangers. This well, more precious than any jewel, stood as the lifeblood of the savannah, where elephants lined their wrinkled trunks into its depths, giraffes bent their elegant necks, and zebras mirrored the stripes of eternity in its reflection. But beyond the majesty of these creatures, it was another family, 5 fierce lionesses with coats kissed by the sun and one fragile cub, barely weeks old, that drew the eye of heaven itself. The cub was tiny, wobbling between the towering legs of its mothers, a miracle of innocence in a land where survival often asks too much of the young. And yet, as the cub padded closer to the lip of the stone wall, curiosity burning brighter than caution, fate struck with a heart-stopping cruelty. Its paws slipped on the smooth surface, claws scraping desperately, and with a gasp too small to carry beyond its mother's ears, it tumbled into the well. Its body splashed into the shallow water below, its head just above the surface, its cries slicing through the silence like a plea not just for rescue, but for mercy itself. The lionesses roared, circling the well, their primal love crashing like thunder against helplessness. And then across the trembling air, a father's voice, the deep resonant roar of the pride male, rolled like distant storm clouds. For the whole creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed, the savannah itself seemed to pause, knowing that what was about to happen was no ordinary moment, but a cry written into the heart of creation itself. Humans are waiting, prepare yourself for the wild to change your heart. In the branches of the acacia tree, silent and unseen until now, a witness stirred. A gorilla, immense in stature yet tender in spirit, had been observing the rhythm of the well for days, his eyes reflecting wisdom carved by time. He had seen elephants kneel for water, zebras clash in playful rivalry, and lionesses lap with the pride of motherhood. But never had he seen panic cut through the air like this. Never had he heard cries that tore the soul of nature open. His chest rose as he listened to the lionesses' cries, to the thunderous call of the male lion carried across the plains, and within him stirred something ancient, something that belonged to both beast and man, the call to protect life. The righteous care for the needs of their animals, but the kindest acts of the wicked are cruel. With muscles rippling under his dark coat, the gorilla began to move, swinging with deliberate power through the branches, his eyes locked on the well below. From his vantage point, he saw the cub's small face barely above water, saw the lionesses circling in frantic despair, and understood with an intelligence both natural and divine that the delicate balance of life demanded action. And as if fate aligned its pieces in perfect rhythm, the rumble of an approaching truck broke through the savannah's silence. A ranger, guardian of this sacred land, felt the tremor of the lion's calls in his chest and pressed his foot harder to the accelerator, dust rising behind his wheels like smoke from a burning altar. The gorilla climbed higher, moving with precision, his body becoming a bridge between canopy and earth. He reached a sturdy branch that hung above the well, gripped it with powerful hands, and began lowering himself with a grace that belied his size. Below, the lionesses froze, torn between fear and hope, their golden eyes flickering with confusion. Could this outsider, this strange guardian of the trees, truly mean salvation for their young? The gorilla dangled, his massive body swaying with dangerous precision, his hands stretching toward the cub. He reached out, not with violence, not with hesitation, but with the gentlest touch of a rescuer. His fingers curled around the cub's scruff, in the same way a mother lion would carry her child. Suspended in that moment was not just a cub, but the very essence of trust between species who had always been bound by distance. And as he began to lift the trembling, soaked cub upward, the savannah held its breath. Dust swirled in the distance as the ranger's truck roared into the clearing, its wheels cutting sharp into the earth as he braked hard at the scene. What he saw froze him to the marrow. 5 lionesses tense and restless, circling the well like sentinels of despair, and above them, an enormous gorilla lowering himself into danger to cradle life in his hands. Years in the wild had hardened the ranger to tragedy, yet this moment shook him to the core. It was not violence, not survival of the fittest, it was mercy, painted across the savannah in the most unexpected way. He stepped down from his vehicle slowly, every movement deliberate, every breath a prayer. The lionesses watched him, their growls rumbling, yet they did not strike. Perhaps they too sensed the miracle unfolding, that both gorilla and man had come not as threats, but as saviors. The gorilla's body swung carefully, his grip never faltering, his strength balanced by tenderness. Inch by inch, he raised the cub until its tiny body reached the height of salvation. The ranger saw his chance. He edged closer, his palms open in a gesture that spoke louder than words. "I mean no harm." The lionesses parted just enough, caught between instinct and trust. And then with a single unforgettable act, the gorilla extended the cub outward. The ranger stepped in, his hands steady, his eyes locked on the trembling bundle of life. With reverence, he received the cub, lifting it from the gorilla's grip like a holy offering. He turned, kneeling low, and placed the cub gently onto the dry earth where its mothers waited. The lionesses surged forward, sniffing, nuzzling, their cries turning from despair into relief. They licked the cub furiously, their roars dissolving into deep purrs of gratitude. And then something happened that defied the very laws of the wild. One of the lionesses looked up, not at her cub, not at her pride, but at the gorilla and the ranger. Her golden eyes softened, her muscles relaxed, and for a heartbeat, predator and protector became one. The wolf will live with the lamb, the leopard will lie down with the goat, the calf and the lion and the yearling together. And a little child will lead them. In that verse, written thousands of years ago, this moment found its echo. It was not just about animals. It was about the sacred truth that all life, when bound by compassion, is one family. As the sun dipped low and painted the sky in fire and gold, the savannah breathed again. The cub, safe and nestled against its mothers, purred weakly but alive. The lionesses, once restless with fear, now stood calmer, their eyes softened with a recognition that transcended species. The gorilla, still clinging to his branch, released a deep sigh, as though his soul too had been saved by this act of mercy. The ranger stepped back, dust on his boots and tears in his eyes, realizing he had been part of something no camera, no pen could ever truly capture, the soul of the wild revealing its gentlest face. And as night began to descend, one truth echoed across the plains: the miracle of life does not belong to one species alone. It belongs to all. In that sacred clearing, where water, dust, and destiny had collided, humanity and nature had touched hands and hearts. And the world was forever changed. The gorilla, his massive hands steady with a tenderness that defied his towering frame, extended the fragile lion cub downward, understanding with perfect clarity the ranger's intent. Their eyes met, not predator to prey, not beast to man, but soul to soul. And in that instant, the boundaries that had long divided species dissolved into trust. Carefully, reverently, the gorilla placed the trembling cub into the ranger's outstretched arms. The man's pulse thundered in his ears, his breath shallow as though the weight of the cub carried the weight of creation itself. He lifted the soaked, shivering body onto solid ground, and before his knees had even settled into the dust, the lionesses rushed forward. Their massive frames converged, not with fury but with maternal desperation. They licked, nuzzled, and pressed their faces against their child's damp fur, their low purrs and rumbles rising into a symphony of relief, a song older than words, older than time itself. The air that had moments ago been taut with fear now softened into gratitude, unspoken yet undeniable. For every creature of God is good, and nothing is to be rejected if it is received with thanksgiving. Under that ancient verse, the savannah itself seemed to bow, acknowledging the miracle it had witnessed. Humans are waiting, prepare yourself for the wild to change your heart. The ranger, his mission complete, stepped back slowly, reverence in every movement. He knew the power of this bond, knew he was trespassing on sacred ground, and so he retreated with humility, his eyes moist with awe. He watched as the cub, shaken but alive, burrowed into the warmth of its mother's embrace. The lionesses, 5 pillars of strength and sacrifice, encircled their child with a living wall of protection, their eyes still flicking to the gorilla above. High in the branches of the acacia, dappled lig.